This is Rock Bottom with Ryan. No sugarcoating, no filters. The pain, the chaos, the truth. No bullshit. Just recovery.
Welcome back to Rock Bottom with Ryan, the show where we cut through the bullshit and talk real recovery, raw pain, and the strength it takes to rise. Today's episode is a powerful one. I'm sitting down with Felicity, a courageous woman from the UK whose journey is nothing short of inspiring. Felicity's story is layered with struggle, years of alcoholism, physical injuries, emotional hardship, and moments where life knocked her down over and over again. But instead of staying there, she made the choice to fight back. After reaching her lowest point, Felicity entered rehabilitation, not just to get sober, but to truly rebuild her life from the inside out. And today she's thriving. She's proof that healing is possible, that no matter how far gone we feel, there's always a way back, if we're willing to do the work. This is an episode about resilience, redemption, and what it means to reclaim your life. Let's get into it. Thank you for watching Rock Bottom with Ryan.
Yeah, my name's Felicity, and I'm from Worcestershire in the UK.
How long have you been sober?
I've been sober for 139 days today, and day counting is very important.
I agree. What was your drink of choice?
It started off with wine, and then when things started to get really bad, it turned to gin.
Yeah, mine was whiskey. What's your favorite part about sobriety today?
It's like having a whole different life, a whole new life. I appreciate such small things like going for a walk and seeing the different colours of the leaves change during the season and hearing the birds. I get excited. My recent thing is getting really excited about going to a garden centre. But it's just a new life. It's just everything is amazing about sobriety so far for me, and long may it continue.
All relationships are improved and all the wreckage of the past is already better.
Everything, the relationship with my family, the relationship with my children, the relationship with my partner, everything is just a million times better.
What was your life like before drinking kind of took over?
It was okay. It was busy. It was a busy life. I ran my own business from home. Both my children are boys. They're both very sporty. So it was sports fixtures. You name the sport, both of my boys absolutely loved it. So it was busy, but I very much worked hard and played hard.
So it's kind of a gradual process leading up to.
It was, yeah. I think looking back, it was a slow process, and then all of a sudden it really escalated. And before I knew what was going on, I was in the deep depths of it all, and I just didn't know how to get out.
Oh, yeah, I know exactly how that is. For me, it was 19 years of slow progression to just worse and worse and worse. So did you try to quit many times before it sort of became a big issue?
No, I didn't ever really try and stop. Maybe towards October time last year, it had become obvious to quite a lot of people that actually I was really struggling, and I'd gone, yeah, maybe I'm drinking a bit too much all the time. And so my mum came and moved in with me to try and do like a moderation, try and reduce my alcohol from home. Most of this is all a bit of a blur to me. I only know quite a lot of the information because I've got to a point now where I'm ready to sometimes talk about how I was back then. And Mum said that I was doing really well. And then it obviously just became too much for me. And I asked her, in not the nicest way possible, to leave my house, because at that time alcohol was still more important to me than any effort that anybody was putting in to try and help me. But during all of that, I don't have the best, clearest memories.
Do you mind describing kind of in detail how that progression kind of started from square one, and how it kind of drinking increased every day and what was happening and how you're doing it?
Yeah, I don't overly know how it became too big and it became too much, but I would always, since I was much younger, I would always have, a glass of wine with dinner, or a glass of wine if I went for a roast at the pub, or, Friday and Saturday nights, I'd go to the pub and have a few glasses of wine. Then it turned into, I'd finish work working from home, and if I didn't have anything to do with the boys, I would have a glass of wine, and then that would be 2 glasses of wine. And then between October and, well, maybe October, I think if I spoke to other people, they'd say it was much before that. But certainly from my recollection, October onwards, it just went ballistic to the point that I lost my job, I lost my business, my relationship with my children wasn't great. My parents and one of my siblings took a step back, which at the time I thought was them being really, really selfish. Why aren't you helping me? I need your help. I'm losing absolutely everything. And at my time when I'm desperate now, you're choosing to walk away and just leave me to deal with it all myself. Like, you're not a supportive family. Looking back on that, that wasn't me talking. That was the alcohol me talking, not me talking. Then I lost my driving license. I got arrested for drink driving. I had to go to court for that, lost my license for a year, 14 months. And then it just went mental. And then I was, without a driving license, I lived very remotely, but I was still making sure that I got up every day and I walked to the shop to make sure that I had alcohol for the day. And I thought, it's only 1 bottle of wine, which then turned into 2 bottles of wine, that then turned into a box of wine. And then I got to the stage where actually, do you know what? I didn't need to leave my house. So why should I? I can't be bothered to walk to the shop. I can't be bothered to do this. So I was just using Prime as like my personal shopper. So my vapes arrived from Amazon Prime. Kind of beginning of this year, I was drinking bottles of gin. So I would have a bottle of gin delivered every single day. And I'd know through the previous day that I've ordered my gin for the next day. So I'll leave a little bit in the bottle in case tomorrow's not very good, but it's okay because I've got more arriving.
To avoid the withdrawal symptoms.
Yeah, otherwise you get the shakes, you get the feeling of being sick and then trying to be sick, but there's nothing to be sick with. And then, I don't even know what sleep was by the end, by the time I got to March, I couldn't, if I was awake, I was going to drink. And, because I didn't have the children with me, I didn't have family coming to visit me. My partner had taken a step away by this point. And so because I didn't really have anything to get up for or get ready for, I just didn't. I'd stick some clothes on if I could find some, then go downstairs, sit on the sofa under a blanket, leave the back door open for my dog, and then just drink and drink and drink. And I didn't care what the consequences were. I didn't realize what all the consequences would be, and I didn't realize how my behavior was. And if you had said to me that I was addicted to alcohol, I would have said in the nicest way possible, absolutely not, go away, please. Not using such pleasant words.
Yeah, the denial is real. Was a majority of your drinking at that really dark period, was that mostly alone and secretive, and were you trying to keep it? Okay.
Well, it wasn't secretive because I lived on my own. So
yeah. So
I'd gone past the point of needing to hide anything because I didn't even need to hide it from my youngest or my partner. So it was just, there weren't bottles strewn everywhere, and I would hide them from myself, which is ridiculous. But I didn't need to drink in secret in my own house because there was no one there.
So you think the worse the alcoholism got, it took away from social drinking and evolved into reclusive drinking?
Yeah, I would always be on my own. I'd always be at home. Previous to when the addiction really got hold, little things like if me and my partner went for a drink on a Friday, we'd go to the pub and have a drink, and I'd say, "Oh, should we just have one more?" There's that phrase that we all know, one more. And my partner would say, "No, I'll drink some Pepsi when we get back. There's some in the fridge." I'd be like, "Oh, okay." So we'd start to go home. We'd drive past the shop, and I'd say, "Oh, should we just pop into the shop quickly? Because I'm just going to grab a bottle of wine. Would you like a bottle of wine?" And he'd always say, "No, it's fine." I'm like, "Well, I'm going to get one anyway." And I knew full well I wasn't getting that to have another glass of wine. I was going to drink the whole bottle. And then I'd be like, "Right, that's enough now. I can get myself to bed. Nothing's gone too wrong. We're okay." And then, if I had a bottle of wine, I was going to drink it all. If I had 2 bottles of wine, I was going to drink them both.
Yeah.
And it just went massive.
At your worst, could you estimate how many drinks you were probably having throughout a 24-hour period?
I was probably drinking, there's no probably, is there? I was drinking a bottle of gin.
Like a fifth size or half gallon, or
what would it be here? A liter.
A liter.
Like a substantial bottle.
Yeah.
And then I may have been to the shop and got myself a bottle of wine or some little cans of gin and tonic just in case. But of course, the just in case are never just in case, are they? They're there because you're going to drink them.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I was really proud of myself at one point because I always made sure that I went to bed. I never slept on the sofa at night. During the day, quite regularly, but nighttime I was always went to bed at nighttime. But if that's something that I thought was an achievement, and that was the most biggest achievement of my day, is that I got myself to bed.
And you
Stop.
not a lot of naps throughout the day. You just stick to kind of at least some kind of sleep schedule.
No, my only schedule was that when it was dark, I should be in bed, and when it was
Okay.
light, I should be out of bed.
Okay.
Some days I was getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning because I couldn't sleep. Other days, I'd be up for most of the day just pottering around the house, but not really achieving anything. Just I've got all these things that I know I should be doing, but I'm just gonna like move stuff around the house and not actually get any of it done because what I want to be doing is being sat on my sofa watching crap TV
Yeah.
with my dog and drinking my gin.
When did other people in your life start to notice that something was seriously wrong? Like how?
Um, I'd say January, February time. I had been to the doctors. I'd said that I'd recognised that I had a problem with alcohol. Um, I don't really remember the ins and outs of going to the doctors, what I was saying, what I was seeing, who I was seeing. I was under a drug and drink worker, who had said, you need to reduce your alcohol, you need to start to moderate. Let's get a plan together. And part of her plan was that if I bought a bottle of wine, I could drink 3 glasses and then I'd tip the last one down the sink.
Oh, okay. Kind of like tapering off a little bit.
Yes. Yeah. But even if you speak to somebody that isn't an alcoholic, the thought of just chucking wine down the sink to everybody is crazy, let alone somebody that's needs this alcohol by this point, and you're telling me I can just chuck it down the sink. I mean, I'm not going to do that, am I? That is ridiculous. But during this time, I had a friend of mine who I'd given access to all of my doctor's records because I wasn't retaining information at all. So, she was amazing. She would come with me to the doctors. She would remember everything that I couldn't remember. There were times when I couldn't speak, and I'd say to her, "You're going to have to speak for me." I would cry all the time. It was desperate. It was desperate, but she was amazing, and she gave up a lot of her time to ferry me to and from various appointments to make sure that I was okay. But even then, I wouldn't have said that I had a problem with alcohol.
Oh, so you were going in and out of doctors, and you were admitting
Yeah,
that you were drinking heavily, but
yeah,
you still didn't
yeah.
kind of want to admit it.
No,
So
no.
what was the moment, kind of that rock bottom moment that like towards the end where did you end up in the hospital? You said you had a DUI earlier. Was that part of it, or was it the hospitalization? And did you have any
I ended
injuries?
up in hospital. I used to live in a really old black and white cottage, beautiful cottage, and it had really steep, deep stairs. And one day, obviously, I was absolutely off my face. I fell down the stairs. And I remember that I don't remember much of that day at all, but I remember going from the top of my stairs to the bottom. And the bottom of my stairs was a tiled floor. And I remember hitting the floor and my head bouncing off the floor. And I'm lying there for a minute going, oh, shit, that hurt. It's all right, though. I'm okay. And then got myself into my sitting room, told my friend, my mum, I don't really know, but told someone I'd fallen down the stairs, but I was okay, nothing to worry about. I just bumped my head and it really hurt. And then I think for a few days, there was people trying to persuade me to go to A&E to get checked over, and I was completely refusing. I wouldn't let my mum in the house. I was just like, no one's coming near me because I don't want anyone to see my house the way it is. It wasn't anything to do about me. I was still fine.
Yeah.
Despite actually being really, really ill. But I didn't want anyone to see the house how it was. So I refused to let my mum in. And then in the end, my friend who had been taking me to and from the doctors, my mum had contacted her and said she's not let me in the house. And the next thing I know, my friend had kicked down my back door or done something. I don't know how, but she got in the house and she was like, you need to get help and you need to get help now.
You said your house was in disarray. Were you, before drinking, were you more of a pretty meticulous, organized person? So what a surprise. No.
No. I couldn't really see the state my house was in.
Yeah.
It was very busy. I've always liked to, keep things, like things that I really don't need to keep. But, for me, I want to keep them. And it got to the point where I just wanted to keep everything. But because it was where I ran my business from, it was full of work resources. And, it was crazy. And so my friend broke in, my mum came in, and between a few of them, somehow they worked their magic and they said, you've got to go to A&E.
Okay.
You've got to go to hospital. There was more than one trip, I think, but I don't really know.
So there are multiple trips to the hospital, but there was that really bad one after falling down the stairs.
Yeah. So there were I think there were 1 or 2 trips to hospital for the falling down the stairs.
Mhm.
But I do remember, I think maybe 2 trips. I'm not entirely sure, but I do remember being sat in A&E and getting really, really cross because nobody was coming to pay attention to me. I had my friend and my mum with me, and no one was coming to pay any attention to me. And the consultant or triage weren't interested because, in their words, and I only know this from what I've been told, not from my own memory, in their words, I was just a drunk. I was a drunk. I clearly had an addiction problem, and there was no point in treating me because I was just going to go back to wherever I've come from and repeat the same pattern. So I'm just there wasting time. And I don't know what happened. I don't know how it happened, but I got persuaded to be seen by a consultant, and a consultant or nurse was happy to see me. Again, my friend and my mum had to do the talking for me, I'd presume, because I don't really recall much of it. But by this point, I had given in to the fact that, this was bad.
Yeah.
This was really, really bad. And so I got seen and I got admitted. And I spent 5 days in hospital. The majority of the time when I was awake, there was somebody with me. It was my friend. It was my mum, my biological dad, and my stepmom came to visit. My friend, who's a nurse, came to visit. But I just remember being, I think I'd given up. I don't think I realized how serious it was. I have seen pictures of how I was leading up to going to hospital and being in hospital, and I wouldn't recognize that as being me.
Did that
So
somebody take that picture so you would have a reminder later
yeah,
on of what
yeah,
it was like? Okay.
yeah. I've got the pictures. I've got a whole folder in my iPhone that are just
Awesome.
any pictures. They've got pictures of me from when I was drinking before it was a problem, pictures of me leading up to going into hospital, pictures of being in hospital. So when I was in hospital, I had a X-ray and I had a bleed on the brain from my fall down the stairs. And for a while, they queried a mini stroke, but nothing progressed from that. I was given all sorts of antibiotics because there was infection somewhere, but they didn't know where. And I was given a medical detox and drugs to help with withdrawals. Again, at the time, I don't think I realized really what was going on. I remember one of the nurses, or my friend who was also a nurse, saying to me, "These will help you and they'll make you feel better. They'll stop the shaking and stuff." And so for my time in hospital, I referred to those as my gin and tonic tablets. And I would say to the nurse, when's my gin and tonic tablet coming? Because I'm starting to feel sick. I don't feel very well. I feel very dizzy.
I assume it was some form of like benzodiazepine or something like that to
I've
help with.
no idea. I've
Oh,
no idea. I haven't
yeah.
even looked at my hospital notes. I've kind of gone, no, I don't
Yeah.
want to. I don't want to see that.
I
I don't want
recall
to.
being in the hospital when the IV hooked up to me, and all I did the entire time was beg for them to give me more, anti-anxiety, anti-withdrawal meds just to feel peaceful or less, miserable.
Yeah, I felt all right. I felt all right. I didn't have a huge amount of drugs for the withdrawals. I had anti-seizure medication that I had to have for 7 days. So when I got discharged from hospital, I had to go and collect some more of that to make sure that I didn't have a seizure of any type. And then I just had, vitamin supplements. I've got a thiamine, which I referred to as my brain food, to help protect my brain and to help it get back to functioning how it should properly. I've got melatonin to help me sleep. I've got citalopram, which is an antidepressant to kind of settle my mood. When I got discharged from hospital, I got my mum to take pictures from top to bottom of all the bruising and all the injuries that I had from falling down the stairs. And they're awful. They're upsetting to see. And at the time, I still was like, well, I've fallen down the stairs. I've got a few injuries. Oh dear, never mind. But now I look back at them and I think, God, the things that people must have been feeling watching me
Do you
being
still have?
self-destructive.
Did you have make a full recovery from that fall?
Yes,
Anything still
yes.
lingering? Oh, okay, good.
I've had things like the last few, probably 6 weeks, maybe 10 weeks actually, my hair has gone very thin and is snapping quite a lot. So I went to the doctors about that, and she says something to do with your hair and nail and skin cycle means that the hair that would have been growing at the time of my injury is damaged. And the cycle is like 3 months or something like that. So now the hair that's growing is the hair that was damaged when I fell. And from the trauma that was caused to my brain is why all my hair is breaking and falling out and thinning. That should over time get better, but it just means that I've got all these little lovely tufty bits that just appear from nowhere and I don't really know what to do with them.
So was that fall the last time you drank, or did you just drink after that hospital visit?
And she'd ring rehab and say, "Hi, yeah, we're still, Felicity's still in hospital. Is there still a place for her? Because we really need her to get help." And the rehab were amazing and said, "Yep, her space is ready for her whenever she's out of hospital and she's able to come." So by then I was like, right, I'm going to rehab. I don't really know what this is going to be like. I don't really know what I was expecting, but I do know that I was terrified. And the day that I'd finally got discharged, I had tried to discharge myself before my mum arrived. So she arrived and I said, "Mum, I've done it. I've discharged myself. We can go home now. I'm ready to go home." She said, "We're not going anywhere." I said, "We are. I don't have any IV drugs in me anymore. All my medication's gone. Look, it's just oral tablets. I can go home now. I'm going home. Come on. I want to go home." She said, "You're not going anywhere, because if you discharge yourself from hospital, the rehabilitation centre won't take you, because they know that you're in hospital. And so in order to protect you and to protect their facility, you've got to be medically fit
Yeah,
to
you can't
go
just
to
show
their
up
centre."
and have withdrawals and seizures at the facility. You need to be properly detoxed. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think for me, that was just, I was set there and I needed to go to rehab. I needed to get some help. So I went back to the nurse station. I said, "Can you just, that piece of paper you've got where I've signed to say I'm going home, can you rip it up, please? Because I'm not discharging myself. I need to wait for you to discharge me."
Okay. So how many days total were you in the hospital?
In total, I was there for 5 days.
5 days. And then
And it
you
was,
went straight to rehab.
I was meant to be going straight to rehab. So I came out of hospital the Sunday night, and I was meant to go to rehab on the Monday. And Mum said to me, "Right, let's get you home." So I went back to her house. "Let's get you home and we'll get up and we'll get going to rehab tomorrow morning," being the Monday. And I said, "I don't want to go Monday. I just want 24 hours at home, chilling out, doing nothing, a good night's sleep, a nice long bubbly bath, and then I'll be ready to
And you
go
didn't
the
drink
following."
during that 24 hours?
No,
And then what
no.
was your attitude going into treatment? Were you reluctant to go, or did you go in just ready
No,
to?
I wasn't reluctant to go. I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified, but I knew that I had to go. I knew I
What?
had to go because I knew that there was no way that I was going to be able to do whatever I needed to do on my own. If I'd gone back home, I can't guarantee that I would have not had a drink. I think I would. I think, well, I'm sure I would have done. I'm sure I would have done, because I didn't really know how to do life at that time without alcohol. Yeah, so the night I'd spent one night at home at Mum's. It was the day before we went to rehab, and I said to her only a few weeks ago, "What did we do on the day before I went to rehab? What did we do anything?" She's like, "We had such a lovely day." I went, "Oh, did we?" Oh,
Was
she said, "Yeah, we went shopping and we got you some clothes for rehab, and we went for a really nice walk, and we went out for a bite to eat." And I have no recollection of that at all.
and it was all a
I
blur.
don't,
Yeah.
not at all, not of that Monday. I have nothing. I went to bed. I had a really, really good sleep. I since found out that actually the Monday night before I went to rehab, I went to bed and my mum sat outside the room that I was in. She doesn't even know how long she sat there for hours and hours and hours with the car keys. My dad had car keys, garage keys, anything they could possibly have to stop me from getting out of the house, because they thought that I was just going to go, "Sod this, I'm not doing it, I'm off," and leg it, which I didn't. And so we were packed, ready to go to rehab. I was anxious. I was scared. I was petrified. And I was watching on the sat nav the time counting down for how many minutes it would be until we'd get there. And I was thinking, "Oh my God, what am I doing? What am I doing?" But there was never one part of me on the journey there that thought to myself, "I can't do this. I need to go home. I can't do this." Um,
So
and it said we were
I assume the first few days, like first week or so, was probably pretty difficult at
in rehab.
rehab. Yeah. And
It wasn't too bad, actually. I think because I'd done the medical detox in the hospital, I think I was very shell shocked. I was very quiet. I was very withdrawn, very poorly. But I promised myself, my parents, and my partner, anybody, my children, not so much my youngest because he's only 10, so he wasn't really understanding everything that was going on by this point. He understands a lot more now, I think. But I promised everybody that I would put in 100% in every aspect of rehab, whatever that meant I had to do. So I got there just in time for some lunch, which was quite cool. Said goodbye to my mum on the doorstep, went upstairs, had all my bags checked by members of staff, and then went straight down to eat lunch and just got thrown in at the deep end. Here's rehab, let's go.
What was
Um,
your what was your experience in rehab that seemed to help you make progress and come out with the right mindset?
um, it was, I don't know what I thought rehab would be. I thought it would be possibly like a clinical setting, where everything's shiny and pristine and smells of anti-bac or bleach or,
Mhm.
I didn't think I'd have any freedom. I was terrified they were going to take my vapes off me. I thought I'd get locked in a room. I didn't know what to expect. But when I got there, although I was terrified from the minute I got there, I felt quite calm and quite, I think would be the best word, because I knew then that I was in a safe place. I was going to get looked after. I couldn't have any access to alcohol. Even if I wanted alcohol, I couldn't. It's just a no. My room was lovely. It was just like a room from home. Nice big double bed, ensuite bathroom. It was just it was a really lovely place. And I met some really fantastic people there. And to be honest, it was one of the best times. It
Did
was,
you
not every day was happy and singing and laughing and joking. There was always a laugh and a joke. Some days were really difficult. The groups that you had to do and the therapy you had to do, and you had to be very honest about your addiction. I still didn't admit, I don't think, for about 2 weeks when I was in rehab that I had an addiction to alcohol. I was still, no, I don't drink much. I've only been drinking badly for about 3 months. Of course, the therapists are like, well, I don't mean to point out the obvious, but no one arrives in this state having only been drinking for 3 months. I was like, "Well, I thought I looked really good actually. Thanks." But then once I'd settled down and I'd got into it and I'd started to open up and I started to be more honest and I'd really got myself stuck in with the program and the activities and the food, that was amazing. The food was fantastic, as was the cake. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I used to look forward to the groups in the morning. I used to look forward to meditation. Meditation was mandatory, so we had to do it. 8:30, we had to be downstairs ready for meditation. And I loved that. And that's something that I've carried on since I've left rehab.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Meditation.
Yeah.
I never thought I would meditate or anything like that in my entire life until I went to treatment. I came
Yeah.
out and I do it every morning.
Yeah.
It's
And
amazing.
it put structure back into my life. It's 7 o'clock. This is when you are going to have breakfast if you want breakfast. And then this is what you're going to do until lunchtime. And then this is lunchtime. If you want lunch, this is when you're going to eat. And then this is our afternoon sessions. And then it's dinner time. If you want dinner time, this is what time you need to eat.
Yeah.
And then you've got the evening,
And
most
quiet
evenings,
time.
6 days out of 7, we went off site to AA meetings. They were mandatory. So you had to go to those. I remember thinking, what the hell am I doing? Like, what is this? You're all mad. I am not like any of you. You're all mad. But the more time that I spent there, the more, I think it was quite reassuring. From the minute that I got there, I knew that I was going to be with like-minded people because we already had one thing in common. We were all addicts. Whether it was drugs or alcohol, we were all addicts. And we could all share our story, and we laughed a lot. We can look back at some of the things that I did when I was drinking, or what some of my peers in rehab did when they were drinking or taking their substance, whatever. And we could laugh about some of the stuff, because as desperately awful, as desperately ill as I was, you've got to find something to laugh about.
Were
Otherwise,
there
it's
were there any
carry on.
exercises that stand out in treatment that really helped you deal with what
Yeah,
could have led
yeah.
up
My
to drinking, like
favorite,
traumas? Or,
my favorite thing that we did, and I think that this is the one that made a really big difference to me, because I found it really easy. We had to write one of our tasks that we had to then present to everybody else. We all had to do it. We all had to read it out. We had to write a letter saying goodbye to alcohol. And it was like the sort of letter that you would have written to, I don't know, split up with your long-term partner or something. I listed all the reasons how alcohol was great. You are my best friend. I absolutely adored you. I was never alone if you were with me. You were always my plus one. Just like the sort of things you would have said to your partner. But it was all about alcohol. And then we had as the letter progressed, it then went on to, but actually everything that you told me and everything that you showed me was a lie. You ruined everything for me. You took everything away from me. Was it not enough that you took my driving license, my house? I don't know. You've taken my children. You've taken you ruined everything. And then the final bit was saying, do you know what? See you later. You're not ever welcome back to come and knock on my door again. And for me, that was massive. And I didn't, a lot of, when I do when I did the handwritten assignments, I'd like do a mind map and like brainstorm and process and draft it. And for some reason, I sat down to write this letter and I just went, and the letter just arrived within an hour and a half, 2 hours maybe. It was all there, no spelling mistakes. I made sure that everything was perfect. Like I really meant this letter. And for me, that was one of the best things that I did, because I was like, right, that's it. That was good. I've done that now. You've gone. And I've told you, you're not allowed to come back. You're not welcome back again.
So what's your life when you got out of treatment? What's your life like now, like as far as how you go about a routine, how you stay on the straight and narrow without any triggers or urges, or how do you
Yeah.
handle
So
life now?
coming out of rehab, I found really difficult. So I was meant to be there for 28 days. I extended for another 2 weeks, but only did another 10 days because I was adamant that I wanted to be out for my 40th birthday. So between me and mum, we came to a good middle ground that yes, I'd stay longer, but I wanted to be out by my birthday. So I came out on the 25th of April this year. It was my 40th on the 26th. So, I'd done my extra time in rehab, but I was still out for my birthday. I spent my 40th with my parents and one of my boys, and it was beautiful. And then the excitement of being out of rehab calmed down, and then I was met with real life, and I didn't know how to do real life sober. I couldn't do anything for a long time. For about 2 weeks, everything that I did was scary. And I've called it my my firsts, which my partner now calls first. My parents do. So if I was doing something for the first time since being out of rehab or since being sober, it was my first. So for instance, the first time I went to a shop, mum had to take me because I have to be ferried everywhere because I've got no driving license. But we turned up at a shop and I was terrified of going in. And I didn't say anything to mum, like, I need to go, I can't do this on my own. But we went into the shop together and I felt like I was walking around with helium balloons behind me that just said, I'm a pisshead, I've been to rehab. And I felt like everybody's eyes were on me and everybody just knew how much I'd messed up. And that took me a few weeks to kind of get brave enough to then do things on my own, like going to pick my youngest up from school. That was terrifying. My anxiety was sky high because I thought, oh, there's going to be all those parents there and they're going to be, oh, look, it's so-and-so's mum. Do you remember when she did this or she did that or she did the other? And I was just petrified. But I kept saying to myself, it's a first, and what's the worst that's going to happen? The worst that's going to happen is people are going to look at you because, all right, they know what you've done. They know where you've been, and then they'll move on. But why are you there? The reason you're there is to be present and to show up for your son. And that's the most important thing. So we got over the school run bit. And then after, 2-3 weeks, and I was kind of finding my feet, I made sure that I continued with as many meetings as I can, be that face-to-face or Zoom. And when I first left, it was massive. It was 2 or 3 Zooms a day, and then I'd find a meeting to go to. So I was doing a lot of meetings. And the longer that I've been out of rehab and the more I found my feet, the less my meetings have got. But I still do 3, maybe 4 face-to-face meetings a week. And I try and get 1, if not 2 Zooms in every day. And now life feels much more normal. I feel like I don't even feel like I know that I'm whatever a normal person. I'll never be completely normal, obviously, because that's just me. But, I can do normal things. Me and my
Yeah.
partner can go out for a meal, or we can walk the dog, or I can go to a shop on my own. Little things that, you just take for granted that you can do. When you first come out of rehab, all these things seem
Easy.
impossible.
Yeah, it seems impossible, but gosh, every aspect of life seems to naturally get easier.
Yes.
Liberating for sure. So, what if you could give some advice after overcoming what you went through, which I'd call, rock bottom, going through the hospital, scaring, having your family being scared for your well-being, going to rehab, and now that you're out and doing so well and thriving, which is amazing. Is there any advice you'd like to give somebody listening who is, considering recovery, considering who's struggling in the midst of addiction right now?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, if you're struggling and you're considering getting help, just go for it. It's scary it's really when you decide that you're asking for help and you start getting help, it's scary, but it is absolutely life changing. you hear people say to you, "Oh, I'm living a life beyond my wildest dreams." And I thought, what a load of rubbish. How can you live a life that that you couldn't even imagine when you haven't even got a glass of wine? That is absolutely ludicrous. But I really am living a life that I could never, ever have dreamt of, ever. Um, Stay connected to people. I'm always reaching out. If I get anxious about something, then I would tell people. Whoever I'm with will know I'm anxious in that situation. My partner is phenomenal because he just knows. I don't even need to say, "Oh God, this is scary." He just knows, and he knows what to do. I don't know. It's like some magic power, and he's not an addict. He never has been. It, but he somehow he's just got this understanding, and he just like gets it,
Yeah.
and it's amazing. So reaching out for help, staying connected. I've made some really good friends on my sober journey,
Good.
and I'm hoping they'll stick with me for the long run, really.
Good.
But
Is
just
that
don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Reach for help, go grab it, and then just chuck yourself in at the deep end, because life is so much better without all of the anxieties and worries, and just without life is so much better without the addiction just pulling you down all the time and thinking that that's all you're worthy of and that's all you're worth.
Is there before we close up the show here soon, it was great. You went into great detail and really appreciate you being so honest. Is there a quote that you kind of live by these days that you'd like to share?
I think one of my biggest things is if people have got any doubt in what I am or I'm not capable of, my biggest thing in my head is always saying, just watch me. You watch. Just you watch.
Let's see
Because
what. I love that.
there'll be a lot of people that saw me in my addiction that are probably thinking, "Oh, she'll relapse, you watch. Just watch her. There's no way she's going to do this." And in the nicest way possible, I just want to give them a nice little hand gesture and go, "You watch.
Let's see
You
what.
just watch."
I love that.
And
That's
I search every single day for positivity in everything. It doesn't matter how bad the situation is, there is always something positive.
well, that's the perfect way to end the show. You see really good emphasis on that quote. I really appreciate you sharing your story.
Absolutely. I think all the time that you keep your recovery real and you keep working on that journey, the more even one thing that you say or you do, it has helped somebody else, that's amazing. So the more I can talk about it and the more I can shout about how great my life is now I'm sober, I will keep doing it.
Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Ryan.
All right. Really appreciate it.
Rock Bottom with Ryan. No bullshit, just recovery.